Hey everyone, how's it going? So last night I was on the internet about to go to sleep when I saw an article on Gamerant about Call of Duty 2020's Zombies mode. So I clicked on it, read through it, and decided I needed to make a video talking about this. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. The link to that article is the top link in the description, and we're going to read through it together, and I'm going to give my thoughts on it. It's only 8 paragraphs long, so it shouldn't take very long.
As the year moves on, the inevitable reveal of 2020's Call of Duty title looms closer. Like most things this year, the 2020 reveal has been delayed indefinitely, as this year's Call of Duty went through some development trouble early on. But the game is still reportedly in active development and on track for release this holiday. With Treyarch helming this year's entry instead of Sledgehammer Games, expect the development studio's usual trappings to return, including zombies.
Now, it's worth mentioning right off the bat that I've not at all been keeping up with the rumors surrounding this game. I've just been waiting for real information, which, as of right now, does not exist. The only rumor information that I know about is that a game called The Red Door leaked on the PlayStation and Xbox store that supposedly is the title for this year's game, along with the development nightmare this game was going through before the pandemic even hit. So this is the first I'm hearing about the game being on track for release. A small thing about this that I find interesting is that the article says the game is on track for release this holiday. Now that might sound like a throwaway line, but that says to me that the game is coming out either late November or December. We won't have any nonsense of the game being rushed out for an October release like we did for Black Ops 4. Instead, we'll have a rush release to get the game out in 2020 at all. I also find it a little strange that the article says it's a Treyarch game instead of a Sledgehammer game. This might be something I'm just out of the loop on, but I remember when this story first broke that it was meant to be a collaboration between Sledgehammer and Raven, but then Treyarch had to step in to stop some creative differences and infighting. So I always thought it was a collaboration between all three of those studios, but the way it's phrased makes it seem like Sledgehammer isn't involved at all. Not entirely sure what's going on there.
Zombies has evolved quite a bit from its humble beginnings, in ways both good and bad. Treyarch began to lean further into the meta-narrative of zombies, turning Easter eggs into full-blown story elements. Perks and weapons have iterated and changed to varying degrees of success. Sometimes zombies would be just the right amount of absurdity that it was fun to play, while other iterations have been overcomplicating the arcade mode to its detriment. Call of Duty 2020 has a chance to supplant Modern Warfare, and zombies could be a big part of that.
This whole paragraph isn't saying much we don't already know as hardcore fans of the game. The game mode is a lot more complex than it was in Black Ops, more story, yada yada yada. The interesting part of this article to me is the last sentence, where they basically say that Black Ops 5 is essentially going to dethrone Modern Warfare, and I don't see that happening. Modern Warfare isn't the most popular game in the series, but it does have its audience. To be completely transparent, I have not played or even bought Modern Warfare, but from what I've heard from people who have played it, it's a very realistic take on what started out as an arcade shooter, and I don't see this next game being that. In recent years, Treyarch games have been extremely cartoony. In fact, I don't think you could say any of the games in the Black Ops universe are serious games at all. They have serious elements in them, but it's hard to say that a game like Black Ops is serious when you have so many action set pieces. In my opinion, they haven't released a serious game since World at War over 12 years ago. And if this game is more in line with a Black Ops, this game and Modern Warfare and even Warzone can coexist at the same time. Whether they will or not remains to be seen.
The charm of playing zombies in Call of Duty is its easygoing nature, and that it's a versatile gameplay experience depending on how players want to tackle the mode. There are those who wish to compete and survive for the most rounds as possible, as well as those who just want to rest from the breakneck pace of standard Call of Duty multiplayer. Zombies was originally designed so that it would be an arcade-style mode that didn't really have any particular significance for player progression, but was fun and easy enough to stand on its own. Newer Call of Duty games started to lose that simplicity over time.
So this whole paragraph ties into the next one, and I agree with most of what's said here. However, I want to pick out one thing that I disagree with, and that's the 2 ways the article says players can tackle the mode. The article essentially breaks up the entire zombies community into high rounders and casual players who don't want to play multiplayer. Now for context, the whole article essentially boils down to Black Ops 5 can dethrone Modern Warfare if there's a simple zombies mode to hook people. And there's a lot of talk about how the complexity in newer games has become a detriment to zombies. But the complexity these maps introduced gave players more ways to play than just the 2 the article describes. You still have the high rounders and the casual players that are getting away from multiplayer, but now you've also got people who are playing to do the Easter egg and are really into the story. You've got speedrunners, you got guys who do challenges on these maps. There's so many other new ways to play these maps that only really exist because of what games like Black Ops 3 are.
The different iterations of zombies in later Black Ops games started incorporating a lot more progression mechanics over time. Perk distribution was shifted and changed heavily in Black Ops 4, moving many integral zombies perks into a version of the creator class system that was specific to the co-op mode. All of a sudden, the inherent challenge of zombies was removed entirely, and the game became far more complex and easier for no discernible reason.
I'm going to cut this paragraph off for a second to talk about the way progression has changed over the years. The article paints progression in zombies as a bad thing, but the only negative reference to it is one example from Black Ops 4. Now, before we talk about Black Ops 4, let me get this out of the way. The progression system in Black Ops 3 was perfect. It doesn't affect your game all too much outside of the Gobblegum system, since Alchemical was locked behind a high level. You couldn't customize certain weapons until you got to a certain level as well, but that doesn't have a major impact on your game. Black Ops 2 also had a progression system, but it was super hard to figure out what it meant, and it only really served to give a rough estimate of a player's skill in public matches. As for the progression system in Black Ops 4, it has a lot of problems. The new perk system in Black Ops 4 has been criticized to no end, but pointing it out as the one change that removed the challenge from the game mode is disingenuous. I've been screaming about this for years with this game. Committing to your perks before the game even starts definitely sucks, but how are you going to tell me that's what makes the game easy when you spawn into the match with 4 hits worth of health, a strife, 4 powerful elixirs that you can use at any time, grenades that outclass almost every wonder weapon in the game, and a specialist weapon? Everything else in created class is a much larger problem, because your own strength doesn't scale with the game. For example, on Kino, you spawn in with a pistol that you can't take past round 5, a knife, and a couple of grenades. You have basically nothing, but the zombies have very little health themselves, so these weapons are actually effective for a little bit. But eventually the zombies get more and more health and start running faster and faster, to the point where the weapons you spawn in with aren't enough to keep you alive. So if you want to survive into the higher rounds, you have to open doors, buy better weapons from the wall, turn the power on, buy perks, get even stronger weapons from the box, pack a punch of those weapons. All the while, the zombies are getting stronger and stronger. That was always the challenge of the game, keeping pace with the zombies so they don't overpower you and kill you. But in Black Ops 4, the zombies can't overpower you even if you don't change your starting loadout. And that's why there's no challenge in this game during casual play. It really has very little to do with the perks, as much as it does the created class system as a whole. Moving perks to created class doesn't make the game easier, it just removes any improvisation during your game. Also, the reason the game has become more and more complex over time is because the game wouldn't be able to retain the interest of hardcore fans if it didn't. If Treyarch was consistently releasing maps like Kino in 2020 as DLC in Black Ops 4, I wouldn't be playing zombies or Call of Duty in general. The game mode has to evolve at a certain point, though I will admit that Treyarch could do a lot better to compromise between a casual audience and find a happy medium between them and the hardcore players. I really like Pat's idea from the Mob of the Dead retrospective that there should have been a survival map based on Mob of the Dead for casual fans, but I want to take that a step further and just make a survival map for every single map that gets released. They really can't take that much time to make since they're just a portion of the map that's already been made. And if Treyarch wants to push the casual fans to learn the more complex maps, they can delay the survival map by a month or so to get casual fans to try the complex map first and give them time to learn it. It would also be really helpful to make the simple maps they've been using for Day 1 DLC as just part of the base game. Shadows of Evil is often made out to be a complex map, and we'll get into that in a minute with this article, but if the Giant was an on-disc map, casual players wouldn't have a reason to complain, outside of the fact that the Giant is of course a remake. The same thing goes for Classified with Black Ops 4 and Nuketown in Black Ops 2, but Black Ops 2 at least has the actual survival maps from Transit like Town and Farm, and Black Ops 4 has 9, which is the perfect compromise between the hardcore and casual fans. We didn't even finish that paragraph, did we? And I just talked for that long. Alright, we're moving on.
Call of Duty 2020 needs to rediscover why zombies' simplicity made the mode so endearing for fans. Adding complexity just adds more complexity for the sake of complexity, without understanding that not every mode needs more features to keep it fresh, made zombies less enjoyable as a result.
So adding complexity for the sake of itself is never going to work out in any situation. When making anything, everything has to have a purpose. However, saying complexity made zombies less enjoyable just as a blanket statement isn't true. That's not a universal truth. In your experience, if you're a very casual fan of zombies, that might be true, but to hardcore fans like myself, the complexity has made the game far more enjoyable because there's just more to do. And the solution to that goes back to that compromise that Treyarch needs to make between casual and hardcore fans. Give us survival maps, give us one simple map on launch, and we'll all be good.
In that same vein, extending simplicity into the zombies metagame would be a worthy change as well. Whereas the characters and atmosphere of zombies was largely built on caricatures and Easter eggs, there was also a tongue-in-cheek meta-narrative taking place in zombies' background that players eventually discovered. Average players in it just for the fun rarely took the time or effort to discover the existence of this story, but for hardcore fans it slowly became very popular. Enthusiasts enjoy the campy and absurd nature of the zombies storyline, but eventually the story took center stage in later iterations. Eventually, the entire goal of a zombies map basically became developing the meta-narrative throughout each match. Rather than making it an optional but rewarding side activity, basically unlocking a lot of special rewards throughout a zombies match slowly became much more obtuse and time-consuming. Rather than taking a simple process of swapping the defcon levels in 5 or recognizing the pattern on Call of the Dead to activate Pack-a-Punch, the process turned into this whole extracurricular quest like in Black Ops 3's Shadows of Evil map. While the Cthulhu Lovecraftian theme of that map was genuinely unique and fun, forcing players to discover some obscure summoning process for Pack-a-Punch doesn't make the process any more rewarding when the goal is just to survive. Zombies should be simple and fun, allowing for players to jump in and out without needing any complex map knowledge.
These last two paragraphs largely deal with the story, so I'm going to talk about them together here. The first paragraph says what we as hardcore fans already know. The story became the focus since Black Ops 3, but you can go back to Mob of the Dead and Origins when Jason took over and call that the beginning. The second paragraph gets a little strange. The focus of each new map is largely centered around the story, but I don't think that's how these maps originated. Even for a story-focused guy like Jason, I do think he was trying to create gameplay first and a story second. But then we start talking about how opening Pack-a-Punches changed. On 5 it was extremely simple, but then he compares it to Shadows of Evil's Pack-a-Punch. Now I'm a little biased since Shadows of Evil is my favorite map of all time, but the Pack-a-Punch on Shadows is not at all complicated. You get 4 items in Beast Mode that are all glowing bright orange, you can't miss them, go to their trial location, survive a lockdown for a couple of seconds, go to the Pack-a-Punch location, and do it again. And that's it. Sure, it's a little more involved than clicking a couple of buttons, but it's not difficult. And the small quests to do it makes opening Pack-a-Punch far more rewarding. When I open Pack-a-Punch on Shadows, I do feel a sense of accomplishment, even though the challenge wasn't very hard and I've done it a billion times. On 5, when I open Pack-a-Punch, I don't feel anything. I'm just like, oh cool, my guns are a little stronger, and that's it. And on Black Ops 3, Pack-a-Punch is the only quest you really need to know how to do. Sure, Shadows has a lot more side quests like the sword and building the wonder weapon, but you can get literally any alternate ammo type and survive just fine if you know how to train. You don't need any complex map knowledge, you need to be able to look around for 2 seconds while in beast mode and be able to see the color orange. And that's about it. And of the complex maps of Black Ops 3, Shadows has the most complicated Pack-a-Punch system. On Horizon, you get Pack-a-Punch by holding square on 2 platforms and it spawns in on the 3rd one. It's very reminiscent of a map like Der Riese. On Garad Krovi, you defend 3 things that fall from the sky, pick up an item, and that allows you to travel the Pack-a-Punch. Shadows of Evil is not the map you point out for having a difficult Pack-a-Punch process. If you wanted to point out a map with an absurdly difficult Pack-a-Punch process, point out Dead of the Night, where there are multiple quests that you have to memorize and complete in a single game, along with a small boss fight. That's a map where I, even as a hardcore fan of the series, cannot Pack-a-Punch. I still to this day have not opened Pack-a-Punch on this map, because even after watching several guides, I have no idea how and have no desire to do it simply due to how complicated it is. Also, I have no idea what pattern he's talking about for the Call of the Dead Pack-a-Punch. You turn on power and it spawns in whenever the hell it feels like. I have no idea what he's talking about there with Call of the Dead, but that's all besides the point.
For a short period, the other Call of Duty games wanted to emulate what Treyarch had discovered with zombies. There was the inclusion of the Extinction mode in Call of Duty Ghosts that basically served as a whole new take on the Horde mode by Infinity Ward. Of course, this type of mode didn't pan out for Infinity Ward's favor of Call of Duty games, but different co-op modes like Spec Ops did serve that same vein as zombies did. Now that Warzone has seen immense popularity, Infinity Ward, and Raven Software, has its own secondary multiplayer mode, albeit as a battle royale, it's become far more successful on its own. This is why zombies could be Treyarch's surprise hit.
This whole paragraph basically just says that none of the other games from other devs have zombies in them, so Treyarch games have something unique. Not really a whole lot to say here. I do disagree with calling Extinction a horde mode. I do think that it's something different, but that's a very minor nitpick.
Zombies should be able to stand on its own as well. The mode doesn't necessarily have to blow up Warzone's popularity for it to be successful, but as a sizable portion of Treyarch's Call of Duty Zombies games, this next iteration of the mode should be strong.
I'm going to interrupt this paragraph as well. The article says that Zombies doesn't have to take down Warzone, and that's really going back to what I said about these games coexisting. Zombies and Warzone are two completely different styles of game that can happily coexist at the same time. In fact, it's probably best if they do coexist, so that way Activision can make money off of both games and get Warzone players to try out Zombies and vice versa. But about this next iteration being strong, I don't know what the state of the game is at the moment, but with all the development problems that have been recorded, Treyarch losing Jason and Lee Ross within the span of a month, the pandemic, and the lack of a reveal, I wouldn't say that the game should be strong. These are bad signs, and even before all of that, the last Zombies mode they developed was Black Ops 4. So all bets are off on whether this game mode is going to be good at all.
Many rumors have stated that Zombies is returning to basics for a lot of the mechanics, and frankly that'd be the best route to take. Whenever Zombies focuses too hard on making it a deep or engrossing experience, it goes against the original spirit of the mode. Anything that makes the mode simple and easy for all players is what makes Zombies generally so widely enjoyed by the fanbase.
Like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't really know any of the rumors surrounding this game, so hearing that this game is going to be stripped down is news to me, but I'm not entirely sure what it means. Does this mean going back to a Black Ops 3 style of game and removing everything Black Ops 4 did? Does it mean going back to a Black Ops 2 style of game, or even something more reminiscent of the original Black Ops? The article really doesn't say. I think we can all agree that removing the creator class and other bad changes Black Ops 4 introduced is a good idea, and if that's all that means, I'm totally okay with this. But if it means making the maps Kino levels of simple, the Zombies community is going to be very quiet unless we're getting a new one of those like literally every month. And even then, I'm not sure that would be a popular change. Well, that's going to be it for the video. Let me know what you thought about this whole thing and leave your thoughts on my thoughts in the comments below. Thanks everyone for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.